Beam aboard for Star Trek The Next Generation, right here, weekends on channel... No, wait a minute.
It's the Solar One, säger Feje, podcast.
Hello, this is episode 128 of the Solar One Sci-Fi podcast. I'm Michael Ball, and I'm back again with my demigod of sci-fi knowledge, the man who knows more about sci-fi than Mr. Kipling knows about making cakes and biscuits. That is Martin Fowler. Hello, Martin.
Hello, I'm cringing again with that. And I'd like to introduce Jay from Sidetrack. I'm a big fan, and I get all my information from your channel.
Me too.
And my co-host, Michael Ball, and he has a fantastic YouTube channel. So, actually, you both do. So
do you. Don't put yourself down.
Yeah, but I'm honestly, Jay, I do watch so much of your.
Oh man, I'm blushing, Martin.
No, because,
thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're like, I've watched other people, and I don't know, it's a bit over exaggerated, but you're straight to the point with it, with the detail. Yeah. And I quite like that.
Yeah. Well, I've watched a lot of videos, guys. As you know, I'm sure you guys watch a lot of YouTube videos as well. Mm-hmm. And there's one in particular I'm thinking of. I don't know if I can name it or not, but there's one in particular I'm thinking of. They take, Popcast.
Okay.
Popcast are lovely guys. I speak to them both regularly, but my God, they take a long time to get to the point.
Yeah.
It's funny because I've worked in sort of radio and audio, and of course on radio, a lot of it is padding. When you've got like a certain length of a show, you do tend to, and that's the thing about doing this sort of stuff. Less so visually, but even so, you've got to keep talking. You can't have these awkward silences. Yeah. So basically, I only sort of came to know your channel relatively recently. Martin had mentioned it, and I started recently checking out all this really interesting potential developments in the Stargate universe, and this is what really got me hooked. So we talked about potentially having you on board for an episode, and likewise in the future maybe we can do some collaborations or something. And here you are. So thank you very much.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
Very welcome.
So, I mean, let's first of all, as this is probably your forte, this episode is going to be talking about, like I said, our potential highlights in 2023, the shows that we're looking forward to and films and things like that. And the one thing, and Martin and I have said this many, many times especially over the last year or two, is, Star Wars is quite prominent, Star Trek is quite prominent in the shows, Doctor Who is coming back with even bigger things and potential new spin-offs.
Yeah, big budget.
A big budget with Disney, which is really exciting. Where's Stargate? What the hell's going on?
So we keep calling it the sleeping giant of sci-fi on Star Trek, because that was actually something that, through pure luck, I got to speak to a couple of people that work in and around MGM, and apparently that was something it was called in a marketing meeting.
Oh, okay.
So that kind of stuck with us. So we've called it ever since. In all honesty, if we're looking at 2023, I don't think we're going to be getting Stargate.
But would we?
You
might be
destroyed my life there. You've leveled it.
Well, the thing is, the more I hear and the more I talk to people, I think they're going to go movie first, if I'm honest. And if they go movie first,
that suggests to me that it would be a reboot.
They can't do a reboot. They can't do it. Doing a reboot. I'm not like, all right, I could be wrong. Right, I could be wrong. But they've got nearly 15 years of canon there from 3 series. 20 years later, like the film they never made of SG-1 was when the world would have found out about the SG.
Released to the public, yeah,
and it would, and that fascinated me, like the politics and the ramifications for the Earth, and how would other countries react, all that. And now we can't. What are they going to do in a reboot? Different aliens, same characters.
I honestly think the longer we wait, the longer it doesn't happen. I think the more likely you're right that we'll get a hard reboot. I think that's because the bigger the gap between the end of SGU, which is only about 12 years now? 13 years?
2011, isn't it? 2011, I think it finished.
So 13 years. And then the start of any new series. The more time that's there between the two, the more that you then have to explain, and the harder I think it gets to start a new series.
But
That's continuation anyway.
I was going to say, isn't Stargate one of the most successful franchises in MGM? It's one of the most profitable entities in the whole company.
Back
With
when
James
it was
Bond.
running still, it was the second highest grossing franchise, only behind Bond.
That's what I was going to say. James Bond is that's high up. So surely that's a really such a waste of a potential lucrative resource, I would have thought.
100%. You've got to remember as well, the Stargate movie is the 10th highest grossing MGM movie of all time.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So, I mean,
wow.
No,
really?
I didn't know that.
You know, it's and for a movie that only cost them about $15 million to buy, because it was Lionsgate that actually originally made the movie,
Right.
and then didn't know what they were going to do with it. So MGM went, okay, we'll have it, and paid $15 million for it, and went on to make $140 million.
Wow.
So I mean, it's like,
Wow.
it was a huge financial success at the time.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's been a long time going. But at the end of the day, if you, I always think the comparable sci-fi show at the moment is Star Trek, that we want to think, and from the production value and stuff, Star Trek is what we want to aim for. There was a gap of 10, 15 years between between Enterprise and New Trek.
Well, yeah, because you had the Kelvin first film. I think it was in 2009. So that was about 4 or 5 years after the end of Enterprise, and that was a completely different thing from the Rick Berman era of Star Trek. But TV, of course, it came back in 2018 with Discovery. I think it was.
Yeah,
like
so I think it was. So Enterprise ended in
2005.
2005.
So there's at least 10, 11 years between that and the New Trek starting. So, like I say, it is doable, but the longer you wait, the harder I think it gets.
Because the original cast members are getting older now. I mean, Richard Dean Anderson must be in his 60s now.
Yeah.
Whatever we get, it's going to be a soft reboot anyway. It's going to be a next generation style thing with new characters. We might get some of the old characters back. And one of the videos I did on my channel a little while ago is I was talking to, I did speak to somebody that works in and around the marketing area, and they apparently did a big bit of work to sort of tell Amazon, out of the actors that appeared in Stargate before, which ones would have the biggest impact if they were to return for a cameo or something like that. And Richard Dean Anderson apparently came in completely top.
Well, he's probably one of the most well-known actors. Although Jason Momoa, of course, is now big since but that was obviously after he was in Atlantis. Is it Jason Momoa? Yeah.
Momoa.
But
didn't even appear on the list. Weirdly, Jason Momoa.
Really, that's interesting.
No,
I mean, that's
I don't know if they put something in there to sort of go, who can we actually get? So Jason Momoa is sort of like probably on the thing of not achievable. But obviously Daniel Jackson, Sam Carter, all those are on there. And weirdly, Dr. Rush was second.
Oh, Nicholas Rush. Okay, that's interesting. Oh, Robert Carlyle.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so I don't again know if that's based on that he would be available and he's in the news at the moment. So I don't know what algorithm they used to come up with this list.
No, it's very strange because I remember that when I watched the very first episode of Universe and how different it felt from the two previous. I did get to like Universe actually in the end. I think it was a real adjustment. It was a lot more serious, character-driven show. I mean, obviously both the other series had that, but it took a while to get used to, didn't it?
It was very BSG for me.
Very
in tone with Battlestar, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it does feel like they watched that, and the amount of the critics were loving Battlestar, weren't they? So it does feel like
that was definitely influence.
influenced.
Yeah, that was the influence to make that series. And I think I think they were told probably by the higher ups to say, well, look, if you want to do Universe, BSG is we want something which is going to be people from watching that show are going to be watching this show, even the Stargate franchise. So I suppose it makes me wonder because, of course, going back to Star Trek, how when I watched Discovery, the first few episodes, I was completely thrown about how this doesn't fit right. It doesn't fit with the timeline. And it's only now, several years later, because it has been a few years later, I've got a bit more used to it, but it's kind of makes me wonder with Stargate, if it came back, how, it would be in 2023, whether it be filmed in British Columbia like the old series were, which I actually really liked the way it was done. Whether it had that, I know it's weird, but when you watch SG1, it had a sort of Canadianism about it. It's hard to explain, but you could just tell that it was made in that part of the world, like the X-Files or the Outer Limits. It just
every planet were Canada.
yeah, but it was great. I loved
Quarry.
it. I loved the way it was done. It just felt so unique to me, and this is why it's been so important that it comes back. And like I said, you know, it's just what the worrying thing, like you said, that the longer we wait, the less likely it is that they're going to jump on the bandwagon and actually create a new series or a set of films or whatever. So I suppose really we'll have to see what happens.
What I've always been told is that they Amazon don't want to do a hard reboot because MGM apparently were looking at it a few years ago with Emmerich and Devlin to come back and do the original movie trilogy that they wanted to do.
I heard
they were
about
going to
that.
completely start
Yes,
again.
I heard about that.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah.
Apparently it was Amazon that actually went, that's not a great idea. And Emmerich did a interview, well, God, it's going to be 8 or 9 months ago now, saying, well, I've spoken to MGM and Amazon, and sort of they think that the TV audience is all that matters. They're not interested in a movie. I take that to mean that the audience they're talking about, the SG1, SGA, and SGU fans.
SGU, yeah.
So if that's true, then I don't think it's a big leap to say they can't do a hard reboot. If they're saying about the fans of that are the ones that are important, then they need to do a continuation.
I agree.
Do you know when they did that? Do you know when they set up that website? Was it Gatewell, the website, MGM, they set up that Stargate website?
And
you paid for
the
the
link in Stargate Command, do you mean?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I know.
And
Yep.
they made that mini-series where...
Origins, wasn't it?
Origins, that's it. I've seen it. I wasn't impressed with it at all. It was cheap and it was nasty.
Oh, it was really cheap.
It was cheap. I mean, I did like the concept where Catherine went through the Stargate before they opened it, but it just didn't resonate for me at all. And I was surprised that they would go that cheap on that, especially when a franchise like this is worth a fortune. The fan base it's almost as big as the Star Trek fan base. I mean,
I think so.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, it keeps streaming on Twitter.
Yeah.
Even though Giant Freaking Robot took credit for that because they released a story about Star Trek, Stargate, and then it started trending. So then they released another story going, look what we've done. I said, yeah, it wasn't you. It was everybody else talking about Stargate. It keeps trending on things. I honestly think, I don't think you can think of another franchise as big as Stargate that isn't currently being made or talking about being made. I can't think of any off the top of my head.
I was just wondering whether at the moment there's a deluge of streaming sites out there that obviously you can go to, and they are saying now that the popularity since COVID are starting to be in decline. I wonder whether if it had actually been proposed like a couple of years earlier, there might have been a bit more interest and a bit more sort of confidence in doing it, whereas now they're all competing against each other, and it makes me wonder whether they're a bit less confident generally with all these new potential shows. You know,
if it wasn't for COVID, we'd be on our 3rd series of Stargate now. It would have, with Brad Wright, it would have. They were going to do it.
That's interesting.
Well, from what I'm being told is that Amazon were actually going to be the customer.
Right.
So before the sale was agreed, initially when MGM put itself up for sale, Apple were the actual leading contenders to get them. They were the first ones to bid and tried to get them. Amazon basically went to MGM and said we'd love Stargate to come back, and they went to Brad. Brad wrote the script. They were literally weeks away from potentially getting a green light, and COVID hit.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden,
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
2 years.
That's amazing.
Jay, do you know where?
Inches.
Do you know where the Brad Wright script would have gone? Where would have, in which direction would it have taken?
Well,
Stargate?
I've heard a few little hints. It was obviously going to have Samantha Carter was going to be in it, so we were going to get Amanda Tapping back.
Brilliant.
She would have been General Carter. The opening first few episodes would have explored the fact that the Stargate was now public, so everybody knew about it. And then it was going to introduce a new threat, and this was somebody that we've not seen before. But other than that, I don't think Brad ever actually got further than writing the first 2 episodes.
Right.
So he doesn't
okay.
know where we'd have taken it. But yeah, that would have been interesting. I would have loved to have seen Daniel Jackson as well, Michael Shanks, come back as like a civilian leader. Of
Oh
potentially
yeah,
a new
I can see
SGC.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
yeah,
sounds
I
like
can
a
see
good
that,
idea. Yeah, rather than
definitely.
less military based and more of a. Yeah, I can see that. That
Yeah.
could be really interesting, actually. Yeah.
And apparently, according to Brad Wright, he had spoken to Michael Shanks and Amanda Tapping both about directing as well. There was a lot of rumours back when MGM had control of this, actually, that Amanda Tapping might have come on as a show producer with Brad. But now it's Amazon. We've no clue. They're going to go in a completely different direction and go with a completely different company, obviously, as we've seen since, for business reasons, to be honest.
Right.
It's as simple as that. But I think that would have been really interesting. But back before the sale was actually final, MGM thought they still had control of this. Even up till July, August last year, MGM still thought they were going to be able to make this. And it was going to happen.
Hey, what I were interested in, it
right.
would have been the political ramifications on the Earth to find it, because we're a nation planet with countries and different agendas. There's only, I think, 8 countries that know about the Stargate, that alliance. What about the rest of the world? I mean, it's people are going to freak out, and I really wanted to explore that.
I'd
You
love
know.
to see it. I was like, 'cause that was one of the things we talked about was how do you start this series? Do you start it by saying that everybody already knows, and then maybe explain how it happened through a series of flashbacks or something? Or do you start the series where we left off, and at some point through the first season or two, maybe it gets exposed, and you do it that way? You've got to do it one or the other. Brad Wright's was going to be that it was everybody already knew.
Right.
So
I mean, something on that level that's going to blow the world apart. I mean, it's going to change the political structure of this planet. Something like that. I mean, it's good. I mean, you're just letting the entire universe into your front room. That there's all this been going on. And the average person on Earth and whatever country, it's going to blow their mind. I know they get used to it all the time, but to find this out, I mean, just to see that would have been incredible. I really wanted to touch on that.
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
I'm sorry.
I was going to say.
Ignore it.
I mean, obviously, I'm back because I disappeared. But I suppose what we're going to say is that if it weren't going to come back, which is a possibility, some people might fear that if it. I personally see Star Trek a bit differently since it came back in 2017, 2018. I felt that the period from 1966 to 2005, especially the 90s era, which was my particular favourite era, was the gold standard of Star Trek. And I think that
definitely.
I think that I have to admit that I think the Discovery, to a degree, damaged the franchise to a degree personally, because it just didn't feel like it quite worked. It's coming back now with Strange New Worlds and Picard, and of course you've got these animated things as well. And I just hope that if it were to come back, it wouldn't damage the legacy of the Stargate franchise. That's potentially my fear if it were to come back, whether it might be seen differently in the future.
I think people always have that thing. My attitude is, I've always got the DVDs of the original Star Trek, of Deep Space Nine. I can go back and watch at any time. I can just ignore the new Star Trek. To be honest,
I agree.
I ignore Discovery.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree.
I love Strange New Worlds. I'm worried about where it's going because of the piddly non-canon problem. And they've already started to rewrite the history that, and we're sci-fi geeks. We like the detail.
You do.
We do. I do.
So I think I don't worry too much about canon, but there is a line I don't want them to cross. One of the big problems they've got with Stargate is, though, that Star Trek has always been known to sort of like mess with canon. They were doing it back from TNG, even in the original series. They stepped on their own toes a couple of times. But Stargate never did. Stargate always kept pretty much to canon. They didn't really make any major mistakes.
There were some differences between the original movie and then when it went to SG-1. I remember
They developed into a
there
series.
were some
yeah.
differences there. I mean, like in the first, in the original movie, that when they collected the Stargate, first of all the Stargates had different symbols on. Although we only saw one other Stargate from the movie, and of course that was set like over the other side of the universe, whereas in the TV series it was in our galaxy, wasn't it? But those are minor things. Those, I mean, you know, they had to do some adaptation, but yeah, go on.
They really completely changed the goal, but they had to.
Yes.
Because the goal didn't really make sense from the movie. So a movie, 90 minutes, you do so much. If you're going to do a series that's 24 hours of television a year for 10 years, you've got to develop something a bit more.
Yeah, I agree entirely. Yeah. And they did it really well. They did it so well as well.
And they did it beautifully.
Yeah, absolutely.
They did.
I was thinking about this today, though. Could you imagine if they actually announced SG-1 today? You know, like with the internet the way it is, you know, everyone would be going, well, it'll be woke garbage, and they're going to do this and they're going to do that.
Yeah.
They've changed the goal rule. They've changed the goal. But then we didn't have the internet and people angrily shouting at us it's going to be a load of rubbish. So we just got to sit down and enjoy it, didn't we? But
that's the problem now, though, isn't it? I mean,
that's the nature. Yeah, that's the nature.
It's like Discovery. When I first heard Star Trek were coming back, and I saw the first trailer of Discovery, I was really excited. I thought, finally, what I love is back. And the first season, there were too much in it. It could have been expanded into 2 seasons. Season 2 were the best one, and then the other seasons after that, I've watched them. I've stuck with it, but I've never fully gelled with Discovery. But when Strange New Worlds came round with Anson Mount, and he sits in that chair on the bridge, to me, and how he acts and how he is.
Anson Mount's great.
Star Trek's back.
Yeah.
But it's took them 5 years to get it right.
But a lot of people gave up on Discovery. Have you seen it all, Jay, or Discovery, or did you give up on it yourself?
I've not even seen any of the last season.
See, this is what I'm saying. I had a feeling you might say that. A lot of people say the same thing to me. They're like, no, they watched it. They're like, no, I've just given up. I just haven't got round to it. So, you know, you're not alone.
It's the characters that's the problem. They're forgettable. I've always said this. That the thing is, with Strange New Worlds, I was talking to Sean Ferrick on this on one of my videos last week.
Yeah, I saw
Strange New Worlds has got they've got such brilliant characters, but actually I don't think it's any better written than Discovery. Really, the stories are okay, they're always there, but the characters are so enjoyable. I adore the series. Discovery, they just lack characters. There aren't any that you care about. You know, it's
I think the mistake. I know they were trying to be different, and I'm not going to knock Burnham's character, but it should have been it's about the person who sits in the central chair and the people around him or her. It's like Voyager. You know, you've got the captain and then
the bridge crew as well,
and the bridge crew, and they can all just have as much time as the captain. But it just didn't work. I know they were trying to go at it from like a lower deck sort of thing, first office. It just didn't work. But the minute Anson Mount walks into season 2, Discovery worked for that season.
That season was the best, Although I thought Sarah was a good character though. I do
like Sarah.
Sarah
is my favourite character.
Yeah.
And that poor bastard in all that gear he's got to wear and everything.
I've
just got nothing but sympathy for him. Every time I see him walking, I'm like, oh, God, it's gotta hurt, man.
And then boots he has to wear as his feet as well. I mean,
but that's a lot of makeup.
Yeah.
Well, I think I was going to say at that point. So last thing, and I'll say something after you. Go on, Jay. You say it first. Go on.
I was just saying, it just got boring. Unfortunately, I thought when they went into the 3rd season, they went into the future. I thought, yes, this is what we want to see. Contemporary sort of timeline, and they ruined that. They went, oh, well, there's been a burn, and the Federation's dead. And I'm like, oh, for God's sake!
Do you know it started off really well?
I was really excited about it as well.
I thought finally, like you, Jay, I agree.
Just
this is where we're going to kick ass now. This is it. The free of all concept. And then when we finally got to what did the dilithium crystals in, was this kid that had a tantrum
it was proper Star Trek, that wasn't it? That was proper, like, silly Star Trek.
I thought, why couldn't we have a malevolent force that had done this?
Yeah.
You know, it was a kid that had a tantrum.
Well, it made no sense either, and there's no science behind it. It was spiritual or something. Oh, no.
I said to Michael, because we covered it, and we were just like, why am I sticking with this? And last series, even worse.
I think also one thing which is trivial, but it goes back to me being a geek, is that they've changed a lot of the makeups, not just the Klingons. Like, did you see the Ferengi in season 4?
Get me started on the
They
Klingons.
look absolutely ridiculous. I mean, some races they get dead on, but some just look so. I want to see like a Ferengi from DS9 in Discovery. They look completely redesigned. And it just looks like.
Have you ever played one of those games? You know, like say if I was going to over the phone, so I can't see you, and I was going to describe something to you, then you have to draw it.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like when they've done this. It's sort of like that somebody else has drawn it that's never actually seen a Ferengi or a Klingon. So they've kind of got the ridges and things, but it's not
completely
right.
off. It's like it's really.
Well, in last series we saw Founder, Changeling. Briefly.
Oh yes, we did.
And they were chasing it across the bar and it become a triple. and honestly, I'm not making it up, Jay. They were this scene. We're in the casino fiddling, and I thought, why would a changeling go in a casino doing that? And it does the run, and they're all chasing after it. It comes the bloody triple.
But we want to see the Dominion. We want to see the Jem'Hadar, proper Jem'Hadar.
Why would they do that to a Founder? And he gets caught when he changes into a triple.
It's because they always have to. They always have to overthink and think they're being clever, or because it's a new creator, they have to do something different. And this is a fear for me with Stargate coming back.
That's it. Me too. That's
that they'll try to do so, because I mean, the problem is they're between a rock and a hard place. A lot of creators, isn't it? That when they do a new series, if they do something that's the same, they'll be accused of, well, you're just doing the same again. What's the point? But if they do something different, all us fans will get on their backs, going, why have you done that? Why have you changed this? Why? Have you... So that there is, I understand there's a rock and a hard place. I just always think they overcomplicate these things. Just keep it simple. I want to see Star Trek. I want to see ship with a captain go explore.
Yeah,
which they do. Yeah,
and in a cool starship.
Well, look,
in a cool starship.
I've got the infamous Zoom playing up, so we're going to pause at this moment. We're going to come back in a second, and then if it's okay with you two, we're going to talk about any potential highlights of 2023, stuff we're really looking forward to, and see how it goes. So, guys, we'll see you in a second. All right?
Jay, what was your favourite thing of last year's science fiction? What was the best science fiction for you last year in 2022?
Oh.
The bits of Boba Fett that Boba Fett wasn't in was really good.
yeah.
First 2 episodes.
Yeah.
Andor was really good. I probably really enjoyed that.
Really?
I didn't get into Andor.
I really enjoyed
I couldn't get into it. I couldn't.
I couldn't get to it.
Oh, don't get me wrong. It took me a couple of episodes.
Yeah,
it did take me a little while.
I know where you're coming from, because you're saying like life under the Empire. I liked all that, but I
like the
couldn't do
detail of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I liked all that and the politics, but I couldn't do with that security guard and his mother.
Cyril.
I thought, why are we going into this guy's life with his mother?
Yeah.
And
sorry, I just thought what my favourite thing probably was of last year. Sorry, it just jumped into mind. It's probably Prodigy.
I've seen the first. Now
I've seen first episode.
Yeah, I've seen the first episode. I will give it a go. I mean, because obviously I thought it was aimed predominantly for very young children, but I know not just yourself, but a lot of people have said that it's actually a very good series. Yeah, it's well written. So I will. I mean, Trek Yards have also checked it out, and they seem to quite like it. And I really will. I'll give it a go.
Maybe because it surprised me. I wasn't expecting to like it.
Because
the same attitude as you, I thought it's for kids. It's going to be like bloody Stargate Infinity. You know, so it's going to be
Stargate Infinity. Yeah,
that was terrible.
I forgot about that.
I was watching, thinking, no, this is good. I'm confused who's watching it, because there's all these references back to Voyager, and I'm like, these kids don't know what
they won't know what Voyager's about, and Kazon and everything else. Because we saw the
bloody years ago.
Yeah,
but
you recommend it, though? You think it's worth checking out?
I really enjoyed it. There's a few quirky movies last year that were quite good. The Michelle Yeoh movie, I don't really know if it's really science fiction, is it? I suppose it is. The Everything Everywhere Always at Once, or whatever it's called.
Is that the one that got all the awards? Didn't she win the awards?
Yeah.
It did. My friend saw that. He said it's a marvellous film. He keeps telling me to watch it.
Yeah, it's long.
I
It's
saw
long.
Top Gun Maverick, which I thought was really good. I don't know if you've
Yeah.
seen that. I mean, I know it's not.
Are we classing
sci-fi.
that as science fiction? You
No,
said
no, I'm
science
not.
fiction.
I'm not. Although, actually, a lot of people say at the end scene where they're actually attacking the thing was a bit like the episode 4 where they're attacking the Death Star. They said somebody said it was a parallel with that or something. But
They did.
Yes,
it
it is.
it did fly that superjet at the beginning of the film, didn't it?
He did. We could do Mach 10, yeah. Really
And he
pushed it.
could have
But,
travelled through
that's
time
great.
through a freak storm or something. You know, that's Top Gun 3.
What
we had a
about-
good year of TV and movies, didn't we, really?
Expanse for me.
Expanse
it
was good.
Expanse.
Expanse was really good.
I think that's been the best science fiction this decade.
I would argue that The Expanse is the most realistic sci-fi. It's
Yeah,
like
definitely.
the proper for sci-fi fans. It's the best sci-fi.
It's
ever.
very,
I would
very
argue-
well written. Very clever ideas. I love the
Oh.
the fact of the three factions of the Martian element, the Earthmen and the Belters. And what I think so clever about the Belters is that they've kind of almost like de-evolved from Earth. They've got their own. They've got their own accents, and they are really completely separate in the way that they are because they've not been on Earth. They've not had its influences, and
Yeah.
I just think that was just so clever. I've not seen that before in that context. I just thought it was really clever.
Well, there's lots of details with The Expanse, with things like they would, when they do the scripts, they would do them in different colours. So there was like a red script and a green script and yellow script, and
That
the
was
different
alright.
colours were dependent on which gravity you were in. So if it was a heavy gravity, it was the red thing. If it was no gravity, it was the yellow bit. And just details like that when they're planning this. And then obviously, and again, if you're a regular to my channel, you know that actually it looks like Mark Ferguson, Penguin and Parker, the company that developed The Expanse, are the company that are in the running.
I've
seats
heard
to
that. I know
Stargate.
that. Yeah.
Jay, I've got a
Yeah.
lot of faith in that company. If they,
Better than Bad
That's
Robot. I don't want Bad Robot doing it.
no, God, not Bad Robot.
Well, I think we're safe on Bad Robot, but
good.
apparently Bad Robot were trying to get the movie.
Oh, okay. That would be interesting.
But they're actually
Okay.
tied into a Warner Brothers deal, an exclusive Warner Brothers deal until 2026.
Is that for the superheroes?
It's just an exclusive. They're
Right.
doing all sorts. They're doing Speed Racer TV series for Apple, but that's
Okay.
Warner Brothers are making it for Apple.
Yeah.
They're doing a couple of Superman, and they're doing a couple of things for Warner Animation, a couple of Batman cartoons. But there is a rumor Warner Brothers would quite like to get out of the deal if they can.
Oh, really?
So that's why Bad Robot might have been sniffing around other projects to try and get something else.
On one of your videos, you said Warner. I think it was Warner Brothers that are 50 billion in debt or something.
Yeah, 50 billion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I saw that one where you said that. I was really shocked about that.
God.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, Paramount to 20 billion in debt.
Are there?
Do you
Disney
think that's-
aren't obviously.
I mean, Disney
Sorry,
are
what?
one of the most. I was going to say Disney are one of the most successful, but I wonder whether they will make any more new Star Trek series for Paramount if they're already in trouble, kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, that's the thing, is that the Paramount's the one thing that's apparently Star Trek is their one thing that is doing actually quite well.
Oh, okay.
Um,
I didn't know that.
But the movie, we were supposed to be getting Star Trek 4 with J.J. Abrams, and it got binned almost immediately, didn't it? Because they announced it, all the actors went, really?
They didn't even know about
and
it. They was really
yeah.
shocked when they read about it.
But then it was the deal with Warner Brothers was getting so complicated, I hear, is one of the reasons why it fell apart so fast, because J.J. Abrams has this deal with Warner Brothers. And they say, well, you can executive produce, but you can't make the film
Right.
because Bad Robot can't do it. And they've so it just got so that's one of the reasons why it sort of got scrapped so quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, Paramount owe 20 billion themselves. Disney Plus apparently lose $500 million a quarter at the moment. It's being propped up with all the other businesses that Disney own.
Yeah,
But
it's such a
Disney
big thing,
Plus-
isn't it?
Disney Plus was always going to lose money, though. That was the plan. You know, you get as much. You need to get content on it. It's expensive. You want to catch Netflix, and it's expensive. But they weren't expecting the downturn.
So, I mean, do you think they'll still be sort of cranking out new Marvel and Star Wars series, at least for the immediate future, because of creating more content, or what do you think?
I think everything's slowing down at the moment. I mean, the list of stuff that we thought we were getting next year, or in the next couple of years, next sci-fi shows is obviously what I keep an eye on.
Yeah, me too.
But there are so many projects that we thought were nailed on to get announced.
Yeah,
And
there
they've
was
sort of slipped into
the
development
Michelle
hell.
Yeoh Section 31. That's
That's not happening.
No,
Not
that's
a chance.
They keep
yeah.
talking about that. They keep coming back, and I don't particularly fancy it myself.
Is there any more Star Trek series planned then, Jay? Is there anything beyond Strange New Worlds now? I know there's Picard
Well, at
season
the moment,
3.
we've got Strange New Worlds, definitely, second season. There's nothing beyond that announced. We will get a second season of Prodigy, definitely. That's been announced and is in production.
Right.
We will get another season of Discovery. Well, that's being made at the moment, so it's actually out quite soon.
Season 5, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and we are getting a 4th season of Lower Decks. But actually, beyond that, nothing's been announced. So it's basically everything's going to be this year has been announced, but nothing beyond that. There's lots of rumours that actually they're going to be Paramount want to move Stargate away from Kurtzman and his production company, and they'd like to go in a different direction with it. And that's
Star
why
Trek.
nothing's been announced,
Yeah. Okay.
because they want to shift it.
Yeah. Because, like you said, I mean, normally, like with the Star Wars shows, they often have like they're in production at the same time. I mean, like
Yeah.
for instance, they're doing Andor season 2 at the moment. They're doing that The Acolyte at the moment. They're both being filmed in the UK. As far as I know, they're going to be starting to film The Mandalorian season 4 soon, which they've already obviously filmed season 3. And of course, we've got the Ahsoka series as well. But that, from what I understand, that's just a standalone 1 season thing. So, but like you say, I mean, at the moment for Star Trek, there's
Are
nothing
we
in
going to
production.
get? Are we going to get Boba Fett season 2 then? Is that a one-off or?
I'm not sure.
Supposedly next year it's supposed to be Boba Fett season 2. It's going to be based more around Timothy Oliphant's character, apparently. So again,
Right.
it'll be the same thing again. That the best episodes would be the ones that Boba Fett isn't in.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of fans. I mean, as a
Yes.
fan, I mean, I'm a fan of Star Trek and Star Wars and Stargate. And Boba Fett, I mean, the problem from season 1, and I think a lot of people feel the same, he wasn't that tough in season 1. You know, apart from the bit with the sound people in the first 2 episodes, which I thought was actually really good. It was a bit like sort of Dances with Wolves kind of thing, where he's kind of learning the tribe and part of the tribe. I liked all that.
Yeah, I did.
But he was just sort of like, I just want to be a peacekeeper. I just want to be, and Boba Fett was never like that in the original movies, kind of thing. And I think for me, that was a negative thing. But I mean, they could rescue it though, couldn't they? They could do something with him in season 2.
They couldn't have him as a bounty hunter though, because he's older, and it were like you've got the Mando going around doing what Boba Fett should have been doing, and so I mean I understand they went somewhere a bit different with it. It's evolution of the character, I suppose. But
Yeah, it didn't quite work for me. The character didn't quite work for me. But there's nothing wrong with it. I watched it. I enjoyed it. Like I said, I enjoyed the 2 episodes that were more based
Which
around
were
Mando.
Mandalorian, at the end.
what?
And I loved Timothy Oliphant's character again in that. I can't remember his name, but yeah, it was, the tone wasn't quite right.
Yeah,
And then you could go into talking about the other one. It's going on my head.
What,
Solo.
Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Solo.
Obi-Wan
Kenobi.
Kenobi, yeah.
Which
Okay,
again,
I'll put one. Yeah,
I
I
like that.
love bits of that. We got the fight between him and Darth Vader that we wish we'd got in the original Star Wars movie. You know, like
It was done
some
really
of the
well.
bits of it were brilliant.
Obi-Wan was
But
an
the tone wasn't
interesting
quite
one.
right.
I could understand that he would disheartened 10 years on that awful planet, watching over Luke Skywalker, and no contact with any other Jedi, nothing. He's on his own, and he's got to survive. No resources. He's just there, and he's working. And I can sort of like get that because he's on a mission to protect this kid who's got this destiny, and but he was so disheartened. And when Vader came looking for him, because a lot of people were annoyed that I think they wanted him sort of all action, you know.
With the
and
Slave
I'm glad
One,
they
yeah.
did that. What? Excuse me. Spoiled it for me was Reva's story arc. It was totally pointless, the whole Reva thing. But when he like met Vader for the first time, and Vader just floored him. I could understand 'cause he had no confidence and the force won't connect him right. But when you got to the final episode, it made everything worth it in that fight because he could have killed him and he didn't. He said, "I pity you, All I feel for you is pity, and he just walks away, and that were more damaging to Vader than. And I love that the power in that. So Obi-Wan, I let through. I thought was a good series.
Yeah.
Boba Fett, it didn't work because the best episodes when he wanted it, and because we said that.
That was a daft thing to do, though, wasn't it? I mean,
it was.
Yeah, it was
It
stupid.
was. It was.
He didn't even speak. We just
one
saw it at the
episode
end
he
of the
didn't say
second
one episode. He was just standing in the background. It was like, no, come on.
Yeah.
In a nappy, going, I'm Boba Fett. I'm Boba Fett. And then we got the mods, didn't we? On the
Oh,
they were
yeah,
stupid.
yeah.
They were actually irritating. The one thing that annoyed me with Kenobi, though, or confused me with Kenobi, was Obi-Wan. Sorry, was that at the start of the film, at the start of the series, sorry, he's grumpy and he's like you said, he's got no confidence, whatever. But by the end of the film, he sort of like found himself again.
Yeah.
By the end of the series. So what happens between the end of that series and the start of Star Wars: A New Hope? Because
He
he's
goes
a
back to how
grumpy
he
old
was
bastard
again. Yeah, he goes back to how he was at the beginning of the show.
Bats to work on Monday cutting bits of meat.
Some meat or something. Yeah.
So whatever
I mean,
we see in season 2 must go badly wrong for him because he becomes a grumpy bastard by the end of it. No.
Yeah. Oh well.
We'll have to see.
I mean, other series which I've seen which are coming back this year. Have you seen For All Mankind? Jay, have you heard of
Yeah,
that?
I love For All Mankind.
We enjoyed that. And that's coming back, and the other one is Foundation as well. I haven't seen Foundation.
Do you know, I tried watching that again.
I liked it. I thought it was really
I
quite
did
good.
I
like
struggled with Foundation a little
Did
bit.
you?
Yeah, a friend of mine said to me, he said he watched it. I know it's of the books and all this, but it's a bit up its own ass, isn't it? I watched it a second time. No, I did, because when I started watching it, because we watched it, didn't we, Mike?
Yeah.
And we used to talk about it each week, and we sort of like, I didn't connect at first. You know that Royal Family of Clones?
Yeah.
It was like, I wasn't connecting for about 3 episodes, that there were different clones each episode.
Yeah, different ages of the clone. I thought it was clever. That was clever.
It was clever.
I like that.
Clever, but
I like
it was.
that.
I mean, it would a bit up its own backside, though, wasn't it?
I think my problem was I'd read all of the other stuff, so I knew the stories really well, and I didn't quite connect with it for me. It's not what I expected, maybe, but it's such a massive story. It's hard to make.
I've read 3 of the books years ago. It'll get better in season 3 if they get to the mule. That's where it should pick up. Beyond that, I don't know. I heard the books after that were terrible.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I've not checked out
I don't know
the
about that,
books.
but it's just such a big thing. I mean, there's some of the series that we've had announced recently, like Warhammer and things like this as well. I think you're going to have suffer from a similar problem. There's so much canon, there's so much story with these things that it's you've got to focus in on something. And when they get that right, I think with Foundation, I'm not sure they quite got it right. So
what do you think of the new version of Dune?
I love the movie. We'll see what the series this year. And
there's a series as well, isn't there?
Is there a series?
Yeah, I heard something about that.
Streaming service. It's going to be around the I'm sorry, I forgot the character's name. You know, like the witch's character.
Oh, the sisterhood.
His mom and the sisterhood. It's based around that, I believe. But I loved the movie. I have to admit, I thought it was great. I always loved the original Patrick Stewart version.
Do you?
And I thought that was great.
I could never get into
great.
that. It was too weird. I like to see Patrick Stewart, but I don't know. I never got.
Slow.
Yeah.
It was slow. And the new Dune movies, to be honest, is quite slow. It can just almost something being up its own arse.
Yeah, but
it takes itself
only
very
half
seriously.
the book, though.
Yeah,
And
they split it in half. Yeah.
I've seen the mini-series, what they made in the 90s for Sci-Fi Channel. I saw the second, where it goes beyond the first book, and that's quite good. But I'm in and out with Dune. I just can't sit through what I've seen already. You know, I'd rather just get to the third book now. And I can't, I just can't do it. And I agree, it is up its own backside, isn't it?
It takes itself very seriously, and I don't mind that, but I prefer things that have enjoy a little bit of humour, that have a little bit of tongue-in-cheek, that know they're a little bit. Go back to Stargate.
I was going to say, you're talking about SG-1, aren't you? You're talking about Stargate.
Yeah, a little bit.
Have you seen?
It absorbed the silliness in it. It took the silliness on, you know, like you always have Neil there to sort of take this. Something like Dune, it's very serious, and nobody would crack a joke, whatever, and like, well, that's not real life. People take the piss when things go really
because
badly.
that's the nature of how we act.
he was like that episode with Bal, and he hologrammed himself a ball. He hologrammed himself into thing and goes, "I'm a god," and O'Neill was just coming out of his one line. You can see through his bullshit straight away, you know.
He'd made Ball wait for ages, hadn't he? And then Ball comes up and he's like, oh, and he just walks up and goes, "I'm sorry, I was enjoying the lovely brunch." Jokes like that are just brilliant.
Have you watched stuff like The Boys, Jay? Have you seen The Boys?
I love The Boys, but it's going too far now. The last series was, I mean, I've got quite a stupid sense of humour. You know, somebody falls over and hurts himself, I'm like, that's funny.
Yeah.
But you know, like, there's a lot of penis jokes and a lot of fart jokes. I mean, I love South Park and things like this. You know, I love a penis and fart joke.
Yeah, sure.
But there's the one episode, and it was it's basically in an orgy, and there's one of the characters can shrink himself right down. So he actually goes into a guy's penis and he's tickling him inside. And I'm like,
I've heard some of these weird stories. It's getting too weird.
It's too much. It's too much for me.
Yeah, it was.
It's a bit too much. And apparently they've said they're going to even shock us even more in the next series. And I'm like, you don't need to. You're going too far.
I've been watching Doom Patrol. I'm a big fan of that. The Doom Patrol. I recommend that. Doctor Who last year.
That was my last question. What do you think about obviously last year's and this year's Doctor Who? What do you think, Jay?
I haven't watched Doctor Who in bloody years.
Oh, so you haven't seen it? Oh, okay. So that's.
So I watched this. I watched the David Tennant coming back because I'd actually got a little bit of. I wasn't allowed to tell anybody, but I actually knew David Tennant was coming back. And I knew he was coming back as the Doctor. People thought he was just going to do a thing, but I knew he was, and I knew he'd signed up to do 4 more. But my source wouldn't let me tell anyone, so I was like, this is actually good shit. I need to tell them. I don't know, you can't. But so I watched it for that. I loved David Tennant as Doctor Who. I loved Matt Smith as Doctor Who, probably even more. And I never got in touch with. As soon as basically the showrunner left and the writing just went downhill, and I lost it. You know, you can tell it was losing popularity as soon as it lost its Christmas Day special.
Yeah. It reminds me of the 80s when Doctor Who lost its Saturday night slot. And I remember it with Sylvester McCoy, where it was like ending up on Wednesdays opposite Coronation
against
Street.
Coronation Street,
and it led to its demise, kind of thing. So you know, I wonder. Well, I before what's happened recently with Russell T Davies coming back, I really thought that was it, kind of thing. But it's now got the chance to come back. I'm not sure about Ncuti Gatwa as the Doctor, but I'll try him when he comes along. I don't know. I'm a bit dubious about the future of Doctor Who, but I think that the specials with David Tennant, because I know David Tennant as the Doctor from previous experience.
I think he's been the best.
He'll be great. He'll be really good. So we'll have to see what happens.
Alonzi.
I found like with Joe, like I didn't have a problem when they changed him into a woman. I went with it because I thought Missy works as the master. I thought, give it a go. I'm open-minded. I don't get on the political bandwagon like some people do. Give it a go. And it was terrible. It was 3 years of an absolute fucking shit show. It got worse. Even assistants, they were like, where did they get those people from? None of them. And then suddenly, we got the power of the Doctor.
Which was really
last
good.
year.
That was really
and it were like, well, what? It was superb. This one special, and it were like, why haven't you been writing it like this for the last 3 years? Why have you given us what she could have been? Now, you know, and it was just terrible.
Because the writing wasn't there. It just wasn't good enough. Jodie Whittaker, I thought, was brilliant as the Doctor.
Chris Chibnall.
Chris
Chibnall was the showrunner, and he didn't know how to write it. He was the really bad choice. And I think that was actually
it didn't work.
The majority of the problem was not Jodie. I think Jodie was actually, from what I've seen of her, she's a nice person. She really did throw herself into the role as best she could, but she can only do so much with what's written for her, kind of thing. So I think that was the problem. But look,
I was going to say, I think we should start wrapping things up soon. So let me ask you, because I remember Star Trek Picard. Yay or nay? What do you think about it so far, and what are your expectations for season 3?
I've got low expectations for season 3 because fool me once, more fool me. Fool me twice. You know, it's like and both seasons started brilliantly. Season 1, season 2, but the first episode of season 2 I thought was some of the best Star Trek we've seen.
We had that reaction when we first saw it,
Brilliant.
and then it really then just got padded out in 2024, and it had about 7 or 8 episodes. The only thing I liked about it was that you actually saw the sanctuary districts, which actually appeared in Deep Space Nine. We're actually going to talk about those 2-parter next week on the show potentially, and I liked a bit, but that's not enough, is it? You know, and they recast Guinan when we know that Whoopi Goldberg played Guinan in the 19th century, and then of course she's now played. It's not her fault. They couldn't afford the de-aging thing, but that threw me out of it.
Character was different though as well. I don't care that they recast somebody, but don't
just
completely
make her
change the
familiar
character.
to how she was, and she wasn't.
Do you know? I got so excited when I first saw the trailer for Picard. You know, coming back. You know, I would expect it. I know you're not going to get next gen. We've moved on. It's 20, 30 years, but I got excited to see this beloved character I loved so much back, and it was crap. And it ended up Data wanted to die like a human being. This is where it all went. And I thought, it's an android. He's a bloody android, you know. But they did it, and that's it. And I thought, right, that was crap. So we got season 2, and we got the trailer, and there was John Delancey, the legend himself. Thank you. And he absolutely
He was
nothing
underplayed. He was wasted.
What's going on?
He was barely in it.
Yeah, he was really wasted. I don't know why they bothered to bring him back, quite frankly.
And also, if you actually watch it again though now, and actually with the idea of thinking of what does Q actually do in that series, and it's nothing really. Nothing he does makes any difference in the end, really. No. They just had him in, and but then again, all that stuff he does with the Adam song.
Yeah,
I couldn't tell you what he was doing now. I can't tell you what the point of
all I know was he was dying. He was dying. I don't know what he was doing.
And then we get this like lovely ending. The Borg won the Joint Federation. They're going to defend against this special.
It wasn't the main Borg though. It was like a subdivision of the Borg.
Yeah, but they were like the nice Borg. We come round and simulate and hug everybody, and it was just like. I thought, yeah, but these are the Borg. What are you doing here? And I walked away from that. I just given up. But then, season 3 trailer came.
Well,
Mr. Worf.
I mean, I haven't got good sources, but I have heard, and again, it could be anybody saying this, that people who have seen season 3 of Picard say it's actually very good. But like I said, you hear these things. I haven't got any good sources, so I can't.
The podcast guys reckon they've seen it through Terry Matalas, and they reckon it's brilliant.
Yeah, I've heard some very good. I've heard some very good opinions.
So let's see. I think they deserve. These characters deserve a good finale. They deserve a good goodbye.
Yeah, because they've been very important to us three over years.
My life.
You know, my life, and I suppose for you as well, Jay. So, you know, I think that they deserve a good ending, not something radical, just something where it's a good adventure, a good story, have their characters wrapped up in the best way possible. You know, don't do a Trip Tucker dying in the last episode of Enterprise kind of thing, and everyone's pissed off about that. So, you know. All right, I think it's time to wrap things up. Yeah, exactly. But thank you so much for joining us. It's been a really good one. Let's make 2023 a good year with some good entertainment. Basically, let's just nerd out if we can. We're going to leave with something which you might not be aware of, but we've played this guy many times before. There's a guy who basically he sings Stargate and Star Trek theme tunes and makes the lyrics for the songs, and he's done one for the Next Generation, and he's terrible. And we've not played him for about a year and a half. But he sung a song. Obviously, you won't see this. You'll have to see this on the replay, Jay. Unfortunately, but check it out. And he sung a Stargate song. It's very funny, and I'm sorry we'll have to delve him out. So, thank you guys very much. Hopefully, we'll have you again, Jay, at some point,
anytime,
and vice versa. And we'll catch you next time on the Sailor One Sci-Fi Podcast.
Yeah.
On the Philosopher.
Live long and prosper.
Hello, Professor Q here, and this is my goodbye to Stargate SG-1. My favorite episode was the one where they first introduced the quantum mirror and Daniel traveled to an alternate universe. And this episode spawned a couple of sequels, which I also really enjoyed. So to celebrate the end of SG-1, I'm going to sing the theme song with lyrics that were not written by me. They were written by, I think, Peter DeLuise and maybe Joe Malazzi. I'm not exactly sure. But thank you to whoever wrote these words. I did not write them. So now I will sing for you Stargate SG-1, the theme song with lyrics. And I've only added a few lyrics of my own to the lyrics from the cast. Stargate. Let's get the heck out of here. Let's get the heck out of it. Let's get the heck out. Let's get the heck to the Stargate. It's a great big world. It's a great big swirl. You can step inside to another world. I'm talking Stargate. It's a crazy trip. You can go quite far and you don't need a car or even a ship. With General O'Neill and Carter and Jackson and Tilk. Look out for that. Go.